Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Finovate podcast. We've got a fun one for you today. Joining me, we have Marius Silvasan, CEO of eCapital. Marius, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
So to kick things off, I always like to ask our guests to give just a little bit of background on themselves. Can you start with just a quick minute or so of your own background and what eCapital is all about?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm the CEO here at eCapital. I've been involved with the firm since 2009. I've helped the business grow over the number of years I've been involved with it. I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, helping businesses grow. I've been involved with the SMB space, which we're going to be talking about over a number of years, and really have helped a number of SMBs progress in their abilities to achieve their business goals. So here at the eCapital, we're a specialty lender. We basically provide working capital solutions to the SMB space, which is a space that has a lot of needs from capital and other needs. And we're in this space and providing them the necessary support from a capital and other perspectives to make sure that those SMBs achieve their objectives.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that kind of financial side of the SMB ecosystem in just a moment. But before we jump into that, I want to just kind of level set a little bit with some background. What are you seeing right now in terms of activity in the SMB space? I mean, obviously, it was a rough couple of years around the pandemic. Where are we at the moment when it comes to the SMBs?
Yeah, it's a great question, Craig. And I would tell you that, SMBs in this current market, going to use a couple of words. One is they're under pressure. Two is they're challenged. And the reason behind that is we've come from an environment in which inflation rates have been high or coming down, but have been high over the last year and a half. We've come from an environment in which borrowing costs were near zero, and they've increased substantially over the last several years. And then the labor market has been very tight. So it's been tough for SMBs to hire. It's been tough for SMBs to retain qualified personnel. So that made the conditions or the environment for the SMBs quite challenging over the last several years. So they got to work a lot harder to make sure that they remain profitable, they continue to deliver their goods, and they continue to execute upon their strategies. And I think and a lot of them continue to do so, and will continue to do so. But again, it's been a market that has been very challenging from that perspective. And I want to remind the listeners that when we're talking about the SMB space, this is a huge space. This represents over 99% of U.S. businesses. 99% of the U.S. businesses are classified as SMB. So we're talking about a very large segment that is extremely important in driving the U.S. economy. And I think this segment needs to be, we need to pay a particular attention to it as the economy continues, in order for the economy to continue to properly perform.
Yeah, well, certainly we all got a little taste of what happens when you start to chip away at what the SMB ecosystem is doing, right? We saw that in 2020 and 2021, as a lot of smaller businesses did have to close, especially in kind of hospitality, food service areas. We all got a taste of that. And really it is, you couldn't be more right. It is incredibly important for our economy as a whole to keep this part of our ecosystem healthy, of our economy healthy. So let's switch now and start talking about kind of the financial side of it, because you talked a little bit about some of the challenges that these companies are facing. Where are these SMBs getting their financing from at the moment?
Well, I would say the SMBs in the current environment, a vast majority are getting their financing from outside of the traditional banking system. And they're going to be getting their financing through specialty lenders, through non-bank lenders, through a variety of online financing platforms. So the SMBs today rely a lot more on financing outside of the traditional banking system than they did in the past. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's the reality of today's environment.
Yeah. So what do you think is the reason for that? Why are they kind of not looking at some of those traditional banks or larger credit unions when it comes to getting those financing needs met?
Well, I think that the needs of the SMB space in general is changed. Again, when you go back and you think about some of the challenges they're facing in today's environment, maximizing the amount of capital an SMB can receive, accelerating the access to capital for SMBs, providing it at the time the SMBs need that capital in as much of a real time type of an environment and scenario as possible. It is really driven the SMBs outside of the banking system. A lot of the banks continue to utilize legacy technologies, and unfortunately, those legacy technologies are not necessarily answering the needs that SMBs have today. So there's a vast market of non-bank lenders that has emerged over the last several years. Most of those bank lenders, particularly the larger ones, have developed technology in order to be able to efficiently provide the financing that the SMBs need.
So I guess the question that this brings up is this a problem? I mean, or is this kind of a natural evolution of a space where there's people who are, or companies, I should say, who are better equipped to kind of get that capital into the hands of SMBs in an efficient way? Or is this something that we actually need to try and fix as a society, as an economy, this idea that, some of these big banks aren't actually providing these services? What's your take?
My view is that it is in fact not a problem, and the reason why is because the non-bank lending platforms that have developed are actually in a better position to provide more efficient financing to the SMBs than the traditional banks. Now, this being said, the traditional banks have not abandoned the SMB space. They may not directly finance SMBs, but most of the non-bank lenders are being financed, or the largest source of capital, I would say, to the non-bank lending space is the traditional banks. So if you want to look at it from a technical perspective, the big banks are providing support to the SMB space, but they're not providing that support directly. They're providing that support indirectly through specialty lenders, which have then developed technology in order to be able to provide this financing to the SMB space in a much more efficient manner. So I would say what's happening is a natural evolution. I think it is good for the country. I think it is good for the SMB space. I think it makes the provision of financing more efficient. So I think we're not in a bad place in terms of where we're going and how we're providing the financing that the SMB space needs in the current market.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I have one more question for you before we turn towards eCapital specifically and learn more about how you're approaching everything. But before we get that, I just want to ask, we touched on it a little bit, but how is technology changing this world of SMB on-demand financing? Clearly, there's been a lot of time and energy spent creating new technologies that are geared towards small and medium-sized businesses, which is great. What are you seeing in terms of how that's shifting this space?
Sure, absolutely. And I would say that what does technology deliver? Well, technology delivers fundamentally, they deliver automation, deliver speed, and deliver the ability really to reach the SMBs into their natural ecosystem in real time. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to use an example. Is you have a firm selling a product to Walmart, which we all know. And those widgets are being sold. So what's the most efficient way of providing the financing to that SMB selling those widgets to Walmart? Well, the most efficient way of providing it is to provide the financing at the time the product is sold to Walmart. Well, how do we do that? Well, there's a variety of ways to access digital environments in which you are able to see a transaction occur. You can see the SMB selling the product to Walmart. As Walmart acknowledges receipt of that product, the SMB is provided the ability to click a button, and as by clicking that button, elects to get paid early on the products that they've sold to Walmart, and the money gets into their account within minutes. So what technology does is it allows the SMBs the ability to get themselves financed at the time a transaction occurs, which is when they need the money, and we're able to do so in real time versus the previous scenarios, which you had to go through the bank, have the bank line and draw on your bank facilities to get yourself financed. So we're able to finance SMBs in a much, much more efficient way in this current digital environment using technology. So again, I think technology is good. I think it achieves a lot of things for the SMB space in terms of their abilities to get financed efficiently. And I think we're going to continue to see technological developments that is further going to enhance lenders' ability to provide the financing in a very, very efficient manner and in real time.
Yeah, I think you're right about that last piece. Certainly, we're seeing from our stages quite a few companies who are innovating in that space. So let's switch gears. Let's talk about eCapital specifically. How do you fit into this kind of shifting ecosystem of small business lending? Obviously, there's so many moving pieces, a lot going on at any given moment. But where does eCapital fit into it all?
Well, Craig, eCapital has been in business since 2006, and really the objective of eCapital has been to become the champion of SMB financing. So, and again, going back to my background, I've been an entrepreneur. I've owned small and mid-sized businesses. I've acquired, I've sold companies. I understand the challenges entrepreneurs are going through. So I wanted to create a platform that really caters towards being able to help the SMBs achieve their business goals. And one of the critical components in achieving their goals is having proper cash flows and adequate financing. So really, eCapital's platform is a digital platform that we've invested a lot of monies over the last several years in order to be able to provide the most efficient working capital possible to the SMBs of all sizes across a variety of industries, over 80 industries. At this point, thousands and thousands of SMBs where we're providing the financing, and we're able to provide this financing, as I said, in a very, very efficient manner to our SMB clients.
One other piece that we talked about a little bit before we push record is kind of looking at supporting the small businesses beyond just the financial side and looking at kind of helping them stay on top of their cash flow. What are you doing from that standpoint with some of the companies that you engage with?
Well, one of the key components is understanding the business, understanding the industry they're in, understanding the specific needs of that industry, and then providing a solution that's tailored to that space and that SMB. And as an example, as I said, we finance at eCapital over 80 different industries, but there are some industries where we've gone very deep in terms of our relationship with our clients to really enhance their abilities to be successful. One example is in the transportation industry, where in addition to financing, we provide a variety of other services, applications, which really help those customers become more efficient, from load boards to dispatch boards to fuel cards to a variety of products. So understanding the SMBs, understanding the space, understanding the industry, understanding the assets that they have, and really working with them in catering the best solution and providing them the capital when they need, I think is a very important component in terms of making those businesses more successful.
Yeah, certainly. And of course, it helps you in the end as well. The more you can kind of keep them profitable, keep them sustained, obviously, that's beneficial to yourself. It's beneficial to the broader economy, as we kind of talked about earlier. So there's a lot riding on some of those really low-level decisions that small business owners have to make on a day in, day out basis. And I think anybody who's got experience in that arena can talk about how stressful that can be, how difficult it can be, and how much that surprise of something unexpected is always sort of looming over you. You mentioned you can work with quite a few different types of companies. What are some examples of types of companies that you have worked with? Just or some of the bigger industries that you've been able to kind of become successful in?
Yeah, Craig. I mean, we as I said, we work from small SMBs, which just have a few employees and are, could be in a transportation or healthcare and distribution business, to some larger SMBs that may employ a few hundred employees. They have different needs. They have a need to finance their accounts receivables, their inventories. They may own some equipment that's part of their manufacturing process. They may own a warehouse facility, and they need all of those assets to be financed in order to properly being able to perform. So, I would say that, again, we're providing financing to 80 different industries, but we're very deep in terms of healthcare, manufacturing, distribution, staffing, and a variety of others. Where we can provide financing, but as I said, in addition to financing, really help those businesses be very successful.
Yeah, certainly. So last question for anybody who's listening and thinking, this is a space they want to get involved with, or they want to learn more about how they could potentially work with you. Are there specific types of companies or individuals who you're interested in connecting with, or a specific way that they should get in touch with you if they're trying to learn more about the space?
Well, obviously, if you own an SMB, you run an SMB business, you need financing, please contact us. If you're in the lending space, you want to partner up with an established business, again, reach out to us. We're happy to help in any way, shape, or form. Our website is eCapital.com. As you go into the website, you'll be able to have a lot of very helpful information and being able to get in touch with us. Again, we want to become the champion to the SMB space in terms of the provision of their financing. We are getting there. We've invested a lot. It's SMBs are really dear to my heart. I want to make sure that they continue to be successful. And as I said, they're a huge part of the U.S. economy, and a healthy SMB market means a healthy economy.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite things about the SMB space is that the people who tend to be working in it, who are gravitated towards it, are people who are really passionate about it, like yourself, people who really genuinely want to see this segment of the economy do well, who have some experience in there and can understand, some of the pain points or challenges that are being that SMB owners are facing. So it's been a real pleasure getting to chat with you. Would encourage anybody who's interested in learning more, check them out. Again, the website is eCapital.com. I've been talking with Marius Silvasan, their CEO. Marius, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Craig.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.